event. Before we begin the lecture, I just want to let everybody know that this is one event of many that we have in this Kanisa. Every week we have a full schedule of classes that go on in the Bet Midrash in this Kanisa. Almost every single Mashagi rabbi gives classes in the Kanisa throughout the week. Rabbi Bitton gives a class on Monday nights as well every single week. We have Rabbi Maruf here every single night. Rabbi Simon Basaleli gives the class. Rabbi Oren Basaleli gives a class. And we have a lot going on. Please, we put up posters of the schedule for the week. Everybody's welcome to go check it out and see if they're interested in anything. On Wednesday nights is our special event. We have this every single week. It's called WEDtalks, as you guys probably know by now. The way we do WEDtalks is we tell the community rabbis to speak on a hot button, very interesting topic every single week. The format of the lecture is going to be 45 to 50 minutes with questions afterwards. So everybody have you keep your questions until the end of the lecture. We'll open up the floor to a few questions at the end. Tonight's lecture will be about the beginnings of anti-Semitism. Next week's lecture is going to be by Rabbi Maruf, and it's going to be on the topic of Judaism versus Christianity. So if that interests you, please, you're welcome to join for next week as well. Last thing is tonight's lecture and dinner is sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Edison Achaban for the Refuah Shlema of Zerubbabel ben Miriam. And this lecture is also being held for the Refuah Shlema of Adina bat Aviva. Without further ado, Rabbi Bitton.
It's a great pleasure to be here in this WEDtalks. And of course, I subscribe to wishing Refuah Shlema for this girl, Adina bat Aviva, and for Zerubbabel ben Miriam. For Hashem, that we will see them coming with Refuah Shlema, amen. So my subject is anti-Semitism. And what, if anything, can we do about it? So yeah, let's begin from the beginning of anti-Semitism, but I want to go over the beginnings, not just the history. I want to talk also about the present. So yes, anti-Semitism begins as soon as Am Israel appears in the scene. Seriously, the first time that the word Am, people, is used in the Torah is by Paro. In Am Bnei Israel, there is a people, the people of Israel, Rav ve'atzum mimenu, that they are more powerful than us, and they are more numerous than us. Haba nitchakemalo, let's outsmart them, because they might get even bigger, larger people, and benilcham banu, and they will fight us, which means the Jewish people are not loyal. So let me explain. What was the reason for Paro's anti-Semitism? What was the reason for Paro's hatred of Israel? That he wants to enslave, or if possible, get rid of Am Israel, as he tried, right? What was the reason? Well, there are two reasons mentioned in the Torah. The first one is that Bnei Israel were very, very successful. Bnei Israel paru, v'rabu, v'yistetzu, v'yirbu, v'ya'atzmu b'mod me'od. They were growing as a people. They were living, more than others. They were having a lot of children, and they were also powerful. Envy. The Goy apparently doesn't tolerate Jewish success. This is one reason explicit in the Torah. The second reason is that Vayakom melech chadash al Mitzrayim, asher lo yada et Yosef. There was a new king, perhaps a new dynasty, perhaps a new people. As you know, there are some theories that the Jews, when they went to Egypt, they were under the auspices of the Hyksos. There is one theory. If we follow that theory, the Hyksos were Semites, that they took over Egypt. Now, after a while, the Egyptians took back their power, And the Jews were loyal to the Hyksos. Now they are our enemies. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, I am very loyal to the Democrats. So if there is a Republican government, it's not very likely. But is that our fault? Could we have done something about it? Could we have said, for example, let's not be successful. Let's not live so much. Let's not have so many children. Is that an option? Or we were loyal to the government that hosted us. What else could we have done? Of course, we were very, very loyal to them. And this is something that we should be proud about. And Jews were very loyal always to the host country. But, as we see, the reasons for anti-Semitism are very different. But the methods to stigmatize the Jews are always the same. What did they do? They demonized us. Demonization means that they would say lies about us. Just make them up. Lies that will appeal to the people, especially to the fears of the people. Oh, they're going to grow immensely. They're going to be fighting against us. Ve'ala min haaretz. And they will become in control of Egypt. Right? That happened at the very birth of the Jewish people. Let me go forward many, many years, like 1,500 years after that. The main reason for anti-Semitism during Jewish history was, anybody knows? Was the lecture of next week, was Christianity.
The lecture of what?
Of next week, Christianity. Okay?
We can't hear you.
Oh, all right. Okay. So, why? You have to understand the theology, Christian theology, to understand why we were so, such a burden. The Jews were such a burden to the Goyim. What happened? The church was going to theoretically replace Judaism. They considered themselves the new Israel. They did the Brit Hadashah, the new covenant. Hashem abandoned the Jewish people, and He has chosen the new ecclesia, the new church, which is the Catholic Church. Now, everything is wonderful in this idea, except for one small detail. If we, the Christians, we want to replace the Jews, they have to disappear. But they did disappear. That's a big problem, because that wrests a lot of credibility, takes a lot of credibility from the claim of the church. Now, there is an excuse for that. There is an argument they use. You know what is the argument they use to hate us? The truth is that they hate us because we are alive. Because they cannot claim, they would have claimed, we are the new Israel. Oh yeah, the Israelites in the time of the desert. Okay, but we are the new people of Israel right now. They would have said that. But the Jews were there. That was a very big problem for the church. Now, how do they justify their hatred to the Jews? What did we do? What did we do? You tell me. We killed. Now, listen to this. This is like something like, outrageous. We killed their God. Can you kill a God without his willingness to be killed? Not only that, it is absurd to kill a God. That God, by the way, was a Jew. Just as a very small detail. But another detail, very important detail. The whole Christian theology of forgiveness rests upon one concept. You know what is that concept? That forgiveness comes as a result of Yeshua dying in the cross. Okay, so we did that. You should be thankful, because thanks to that, all the humanity, all the church, all the Christians are forgiven. Right? But they use that to inflame the masses. Oh, they kill our God. Oh, let's kill them back. You see? Now, Christian anti-Semitism was the biggest force throughout history. And they tried to kill us. They expelled us from every Christian country, everyone. Every Christian country, from Germany, from Britain, from France, and of course, from Spain. They didn't allow us to be there. They just got rid of us. They tried also to convert us. Because for them, converting Jews is the biggest prize. It's like, oh, we acknowledge that there is a new religion and we pertain to the past. Until today, ladies and gentlemen, until today, the church, every church, makes incredible efforts in order to convert us. You are aware of that, right? I give you one example I found in the internet, and this is a warning, and also I'm asking you for help. Asking you for help, to help me to spread this in the media. I came across a wonderful, wonderful YouTube video that was, actually, I saw it in Israeli TV. There's a boy, his name is Hanania Naftali. Oh, wow, anybody saw this boy? You saw this boy? Amazing, isn't he? He's serving the Israeli army. Wow, and he's so articulate, and he's so eloquent. He speaks so nice about Israel. And I saw him, you know, a rabbi has to have Talmudic eyes. So you don't just look, you want to look behind this. I was looking in the YouTube video to see if I see a kippah. I didn't see a kippah. I said, this is very strange. A non-religious Jewish boy talking this way about, you know, it's not impossible, but I wanted to search a little more about him. So I went, I see another YouTube videos, and I found another one. I was in love with him. And then I found another one. The first one, where he declares he's a Christian. He lives in Yeshu. And he says, I will not talk about Yeshu. I will bring the people close to Yeshu through me. Which people? Which people? Jews. Israel. So I want to ask for your help, because I have seen this in many, many Jewish websites and people in Facebook. Hanania Naftali this, Hanania Naftali that. Just check them out. And please help me to warn the people that although I don't have anything against it. You know, Christian talking well about Israel, that's fantastic. He lives in Israel, by the way. But he has an agenda. They have an agenda. Until now. Because their main thing is to convert us. You know, the church had to hide the real Bible. Did you know that for 15 centuries they did not translate the Bible? Why not? Among other things, they left it in Latin, which nobody understood Latin. People repeated like parrots. Why? Because if they read the Bible, if they read the Hebrew Bible, they will see that it's Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, David, Shlomo. They will read, do not make any idols. They have idols. They had to erase the second commandment. They will read, to Abraham Avinu, what every evangelical Christian is saying right now. Those who curse you will be cursed. Those who bless you will be blessed. They didn't have any interest to show this in English or in any other language. That's why they kept it in Latin. It was only in the time of Martin Luther that the first translations of the Bible came about. And guess what? At the beginning, the Protestants were much more amicable with the Jews because of that. You cannot compare the Catholic anti-Semitism with the Protestant anti-Semitism. The Catholic is much worse. Let me read you something that Rabbi Ishaq Cardoso wrote. He wrote a wonderful book. It's called The Wonders and the Accusation of the Jews. He lived in the 17th century. So he says, look what we had to suffer. For example, in Spain, but all over Europe because of this. If a child, a youth is missing in the city, if he's stolen, it must be the Jews who kidnapped him. We were always accused if there was some crime without finding the people responsible for it? It was the Jews. If impious and perverse men killed him, the Jews were the murderers. There is no worse evil, no impiety as furious, of which they have not been imputed with the Jews by the Christians. We suffered this for centuries. They, the Jews, always carry the shame of those crimes provoked by depraved men, being of any kind, and even through their innocence be evident, they are blamed and punished. The Jews, now this is the last words of Rabbi Bitton. Are we really that bad? Are we really killers? Are we really using the blood of Christian children to bake matzot? Come on! The Jews are merciful with Borei Olam, with their own, with the strangers, this is the truth, with the pilgrims, even with the enemies, even with the animals. We have Tzar Balechaim, even with the birds, even with the trees. We have a prohibition not to cut any tree that is a fruit tree. In sum, all the law of the Jews is a compendium of piety and a paragon of love. Nonetheless, he says, the Jew is imputed with the charge of hatred to Christian. The accusation is repeated, as you know, also in modern times. So this is the classic anti-Semitism. For centuries, that was the classic anti-Semitism. We killed their God, and we have to disappear. If not, we have to be converted. They persecuted us so much. Now, let's talk about modern forms of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is disguised in many different ways. Let me tell you one that probably is not very well known. So I'm finishing a book now. It's called Dinosaurs in the Bible. And I had to understand and to explain in my book why the dinosaurs that are written in the Torah in the beginning of Bereshit, why they were taken away. Why nobody mentions them? Not even modern translation, because it's so clear. Taninim, Gedolim is big reptiles, which is the meaning of the word dinosaurus. Dino means big, saurus means reptiles. So why is not there? Why nobody pay attention to this? Then, you know, there is this thing called biblical criticism. Have you heard of it? Have you heard of biblical criticism? Okay, let me explain to you. In every respectful university, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, NYU, and other hundreds of universities around the world, they have a department of biblical studies. What do they do? What do they do in the biblical studies department? They teach biblical criticism, which is what? Which is like denying the truth of the Torah. You know, I met many boys and girls of the community that they tell me, well, I went to NYU, I went to Columbia, I went here, I went there, and I was exposed. I wanted to get some credits, easy credits, but I know Bible, etc. I went to this, but Rabbi, I couldn't believe what they were saying. Well, biblical criticism is the main argument is that the Torah is fake. Was not written by Moshe Rabbeinu, given by God, etc. It's a collection of different documents, and this is the example I'm going to give you right now. Everything the Jews have in their Torah is borrowed from other civilizations. Everything. For example, they say the story of Bereshit is borrowed from Enuma Elish, which is a pagan myth that talks about monsters, that they kill each other. Incredible that they can put these things together. The story of Noah, Gilgamesh. Everything you see in the Torah is not produced by the Jews. It's produced by others, and the Jews that just copy it. I had this in mind, and a few months ago, in Yom HaShoah, we had, I went to listen to a very important professor. His name is Richard Thomas. He's a friend of mine. And he talked about the beginnings of anti-Semitism in the Shoah, because he's an expert on the Holocaust. Very big expert. He teaches in college. It's called Holocaust. Now he said something. He said, one of the accusations of the Nazis was that the Jews borrowed everything from others. They have no creativity. In preparation for this class, I met with him today in the library. And he showed me this in Hitler's main camp. He showed me this in the letters of Wagner about the Jews. He showed me this in the letter of the British anti-Semitic philosopher Houston, and also in Alfred Rosenberg with S, was not a Jew. Alfred Rosenberg, so I brought, because we don't have a lot of time, I just want to read for you one of the, one very small paragraph of his book. The book is called The Jews, the Parasites of the World. Okay? This is the name of the Jews. 1940. So he says, we today must recognize that the Jew was not interested in competing with the great ideas and personalities of our intellectual world. Take, for example, Spinoza. There is nothing original about Spinoza. He used the thoughts of Descartes and Giordano Bruno in a way that completely changed his original sense. Leading Jews have done the same with the thinking of other great Europeans. Jews are not great, they just steal things from others. They pretended to be the real proponents of these ideas and were nonetheless greatest liars. Remember how Karl Marx falsified the German conception of socialism as a natural order of life, based deeply in German blood, and turned into the phantom of the dictatorship of the proletariat. This doctrine so deeply mirrored the nature of its Jewish inventor that the world knew only to connect it to his name, Marxism. So every good thing, bad thing that the Jews have said is not original. It's taken from the way. Now, look how this got to biblical criticism. I'm gonna, again, this is just for this subject enough by itself. It's for a class, but I'm going to read to you very briefly from this book, also from the same period, very briefly what he says about Jewish mitzvah. For example, in his opinion, the Pesach. Why do we celebrate Pesach? Okay, the eating of the Pesach lamb was, of course, a sacrificial meal, the aim of which was to achieve communion with the gods. Now, expect lies right now. The word Pesach itself means, go ahead, to dance with the limb. To dance with the limb. And because there was a Canaanite Baal of dancing. So where did we borrow Pesach from? From the dancing of the Canaanite Baal. That is what biblical criticism is about. Shavuot, the festival of weeks, in possibly connected with it, God is said to shine like light while Deber and Reshef go before him. You know that, right? Of course. Deber and Reshef is the main thing of Shavuot. Deber is the Babylonian pest god, while Reshef is a Syrian storm deity called in Babylonian Nineveh. So Shavuot, we took it from the Babylonians or from the Syrians, and the other ones from the Canaanites. And what about Sukkot? Well, according to E.O. James, behind the celebration of Sukkot lay the drama of the dying and reviving Iyar god, which also dominated the Babylonian. His name is Akitu. So you know why we celebrate Shavuot? Because we copy from the Babylonians Akitu. So Pesach we copy from the Canaanites, from the Baal that was dancing with the limb. Shavuot we copy from the Syrians and from the Babylonians, and then also from the Babylonians we took Sukkot. Nice, right? Okay, this is biblical criticism. This is anti-Semitism at its best, because the whole point of anti-Semitism in this disguise is to delegitimize the Jewish people. Delegitimize the Jewish people. What better way to delegitimize them than to say, the Torah, the thing that they are so proud about, is not there. No, they borrowed, they stole everything from others. And the Babylonians, They would never, ever claim that Gilgamesh, the story of the flood in the Sumerians, was taken from the Torah. Nothing original in Judaism. This is anti-Semitism at its best because it's concealed in the academic world. All right. What other forms of, again, can we do anything about it? Can we do anything about it? Yes. The only thing we can do is know by ourselves that this is very biased. There is nothing of truth in this. What other modern forms of anti-Semitism we have? Well, what would you say is the most anti-Semitic institution in modern days? The most. United Nations. United Nations. There is nothing that compared to it. I could be speaking about this for 2 hours. I get every other day, at least every week, I get a very good email. I would recommend you this email. It's called UN Watch by a guy called Hiller Neuer, N-E-U-E-R. I really recommend you this to see what we are going through. UN has an obsession against Israel. Israel is the Jew among the nations. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Some of them you know, some of them you might not know. Give you one example number one. Let's talk about refugees. The Palestinian refugees is the biggest problem in the world. Palestinian refugees. Now, do you know how many refugees are in the world right now? How many people were displaced like last year? How many refugees are there? Hundreds of millions of people were displaced. We have tens of millions of refugees all over the world, not just the Syrian refugees. From Rwanda, from Burundi, from Congo, from Kenya, from Sudan, from every single African country. Millions and tens of millions of refugees. Is there any agency for refugees? Is there anyone? Yeah? There is an agency for refugees. It's called the UN Refugee Agency. They take care of all refugees except for, this is true. This is absolutely true. They take care of all refugees in the world except for Palestinian refugees. Poor Palestinians, you would say, oh wow, poor Palestinians, they are not included in the UN relief for refugees, that agency? No, they have their own agency just for Palestinian refugees. Can you believe it? It's called the UNRWA. That's only for Palestinians, only for them. With different criteria, with different laws. What is the main law that differentiates between the UN Refugee Agency, the international one, and the UN Refugee Agency for Palestinians? What is the main thing that differentiates? Anybody knows? Yes, sir. Let's say that in 1948, many Palestinians, 600,000 to 700,000, were displaced. Now, there are evidences, there are testimonies, there are books, there are written, there are recordings that the heads of the states, of the Arab states, they were telling them, go away, go away. We will conquer and kill these Jews, throw them to the sea, and then you come back. They left on their own. Now there were how many? 500,000, okay? Now in 48 to 49. Now how many of them are still alive? How many? Well, probably 40,000 are still alive, all right? Now, according to the UN Refugee Agency, who is considered a refugee? A person that was displaced from his homeland, okay, from his place, okay, directly or indirectly. Now the UNRWA has, in 1949, a new clause, a new thing that no other refugees have. This law of refugees apply not only to the people that lived in Palestine in 1948 to 1949. It also applies to their descendants, not children. All the descendants, to their children, to their grandchildren, and to their great-grandchildren, which today are like 4.5 million people. Can you explain to me why? Why? Why this preference for Palestinians? Oh, because everybody loves Palestinians? Well, I don't think so. You know why? Because Palestinians, millions of them, are confined to live in refugee camps. Not in Israel, especially in Lebanon, in Syria, in Jordan, and they are not allowed to have citizenship in these places. The Palestinians in those camps, they cannot get employment. In Lebanon, for example, they don't give them a work permit. They are not able to have health services or education. They have to get money from the UNRWA. You know how much money America gave to the UNRWA last year? You will never guess. $400 million. Now, what is the goal and the task of a refugee agency? You tell me. What is it? The main thing, what is it? To relocate them. To relocate, right? The Syrian refugees, relocate them here, there, in Europe or not in Europe. By the way, why don't they send them to Saudi Arabia? They have so much place there. They have, Jordan has, but Saudi Arabia is one of the richest countries, and they have so much place. They host every year for the Hajj. They host there 2 million, 3 million people at least, and they have houses. They can host them all, and it's the same country, the same language. Mr. Trump should say that. Send them to Saudi Arabia. We will help them. That's their culture. But let's leave that for another time. Now, how many Palestinians were relocated by the UNRWA? How many? Zero. Why? Because they want them there in the refugee camps. So these Palestinians are suffering, no health, no education, nothing, because they want to use it as a weapon against Israel. Because Nasser said, if the refugees return to Palestine, that will be the end of the Jewish nation. Was he right? And they want to make sure that this stays there. But what is the most surprising thing here, ladies and gentlemen? I am not surprised that the Palestinians are using this trick. What is outrageous here? Nobody else does anything. How can the rest of the world tolerate this? That evidently is not for the welfare of the Palestinians. This has only one single objective in mind, which is the destruction of Israel. Just imagine if 5 million Palestinians will come to Israel right now. Imagine what that would be. That's the disappearance of Israel. So where is Germany, France, the European Union? Where is the truth? What is the emet? They are buying this. I can think about very few things that are so anti-Semitic like the UN. Another example, very recent, because that was 1949, although we are still suffering this. UNESCO adopts resolution ignoring Jewish type to the Temple Mount. Can you imagine this? They said the Temple Mount is Muslim. The UNESCO, which is an agency of the United Nations, approved that. Approved that. UNESCO Executive Board in Paris on Friday, this is like April of 2016, adopted a resolution whose language ignores Jewish ties to its holy religious site of the Temple Mount and the Western Wall area. The Kotel is not us. They're protesting how we are doing right now, like a new section for the women to pray there in their Temple Mount, in the Muslim Temple Mount. Are you surprised that the Muslims are coming with this idea? I'm not. But I am outraged that France, Spain, Sweden, and Slovenia, among others, approve this message. They approve this move. How can you understand this? Now Netanyahu said something, talking to them in the same language. If you deny the Jewish ties, you are denying your own religion. Because Yeshua, was in the time of the Bet Midrash, and the Pharisees, etc., etc. So you don't believe that we had a Bet Midrash here? You don't believe that this is Jewish? I mean, there are so many, it's so outrageous, so ridiculous. By the United Nations, how you say, listen what they said. UNESCO ignores the unique, this is Netanyahu, Jewish connection to the Temple Mount, the site of two temples for 1,000 years, and the place to which Jews prayed for thousands of years. The UN is rewriting a basic part of human history and proving that there is no law to which it will not reach. All right. This is from May 25th. Another agency of United Nations is called the WHO. Anybody know? World Health Organization. So, all right. So before I read this, of course, what did they do? They really applaud Israel because Israel has developed more medical instruments and has done so much for modern medicine, right? Like the camel and the pill, and Teva that has the generic medication that is a fraction of the cost. Israel has done so. Israel has like a suit for people who cannot walk so they can walk. Unbelievable. The orthopedic, the science and the scientific knowledge of Israel in the field of medicine is unbelievable, unparalleled. What would you expect the World Health Organization to say about Israel? So guess what? The UK, France, Germany, and other European Union states voted today for a UN resolution co-sponsored by Arab groups, okay, that single out Israel at the annual assembly of the World Health Organization as the only violator of mental, physical, and environmental health in the world. The only violator of mental health in the world is what? Israel. And okay, this was moved by the Arab countries, but did you hear what I read? The UK, France, Germany, Europe, they are with them. The vote was 107 against 8. Where is the truth? Where is fairness? That's unbelievable that this happened in 2016. You know who took the floor in the World Health Organization? You know who? Speaking against Israel. Several countries took the floor ahead of the vote. The first one, Iran. Iran said Gaza was under a unhuman blockade. The second one, Syria. I'm not joking. Syria. They are killing people left and right. They are bombing hospitals. There is no country which is worse than Syria. And they had the Syria said, the occupying Israeli forces continue their immoral practice which punish our people in the Golan. They have used chemical weapons against each other. How can the world tolerate this? Isn't that incredible? That anti-Semitism is so clear and is so tolerated. Egypt, even our friends, our allies, accuse Israel of disregard for basic human rights. Pakistan, you know, Egypt has, like, seriously, Egypt has like 8 million people living in the worst condition you can ever think. Pakistan spoke of Israel's devastation of the health system. And guess what? The last one was Venezuela. Now, do you know what's going on in Venezuela right now? You know what's going on in Venezuela? People have no food. People have no medication. If you are diabetic, you don't have insulin in Venezuela. If you have cancer, you don't have chemo in Venezuela. You have no medication in Venezuela. And Venezuela took the floor. And they spoke. Okay, it says, Venezuela's Maduro regime said there was a need to bring in medicines, but this is being inhibited by the occupying power, Israel. So, the hypocrisy is so enormous, it's so huge. How can you understand it? That's modern anti-Semitism. There is another form of anti-Semitism, very interesting. This is from a pasuk from Megillat Echad. In the first paragraph it says, Ayut Zarea le-Rosh, your enemies became the head. The Gemara says something unbelievable. Among Umot HaOlam, among the Goyim, you want to be the head? You want to be the leader of the Umot of the Goyim? You know what you have to do? Attack Israel. If you attack Israel, you become the head of the Goyim. And I came out with a very interesting article in 2011, you know, about Turkey. Turkey all of a sudden starts speaking against Israel. Look at this. Turkey's prime minister, look at the word, planted himself at the heart of the Arab war's turbulent politics on Tuesday when he declared himself a champion of the Palestinian cause. And that brought him to be a big leader. Now look what they say right now. What Mohammed Fahed said. We consider him as the Islamic leader in the Middle East. Ayut Zarea le-Rosh. Why? Because they fight to see who can speak more against Israel. Then he will be the leader, Ayut Zarea le-Rosh. Unbelievable. Erdogan, oh, the Syrians complain. Erdogan didn't mention Syria. Didn't mention any help for Syria. They all want to help the Palestinians, but in their own way. They don't want to help the Palestinians by bringing them to Turkey. Bring some 100,000 Palestinians from the refugee camps to Turkey. If you love them so much, you don't love them. You just hate Israel. You are using the Palestinian cause. Pity for the Palestinians. What can we do about it? What can we do about it? Is there anything we can do? Well, I got something very interesting. It's very deep. I got an article that explains what is behind the Europeans, for example, hating Israel so much. Why they are part of this organization, of this, they're in complicity with all these lies. Why? For very, very brief. Freud wrote a book, and that book is called Jews and Monotheism. And this is what he says. He says, Freud suggests that anti-Semitism is the result of an expression of resentment on the part of many Christians, as well as secular people, who hold the Jews responsible for the, what do you think? The Christians. This is Freud, so you have to think deep. You have to think in the subconscious mind. They hold the Jews responsible for the creation of the Christian religion. It's very deep. You following me? They have, now quote unquote, they have remained what their ancestors were, barbarically polytheistic. It's like they are missing that. And who is responsible for the advancement of Christianity? They have not yet overcome the grudge against the new religion which was forced on them, which is Christianity. And they have projected onto the source from which Christianity came to them, which is Judaism. Their hatred for Judaism is at its bottom hatred for Christianity. Unbelievable. Unreal. I read this in a different place. I read this in a Nazi ideologue called Nietzsche. You heard about Nietzsche? Nietzsche. I don't know how to say in English. Nietzsche? Nietzsche. He wrote The Antichrist. What is at the heart of this Antichrist? That Christianity, and Judaism of course, empowers the weak people. And we have learned, Nietzsche says, from natural selection that the weak has to go down. That natural selection means that the strong has to be helped, to be stronger. If you help the weak, then you are not helping the strong to become stronger. That's anti-natural. What Christianity / Judaism brought to the world is terrible. This is Nazism. So we have a mitzvah of helping the poor, helping the sick people, helping those who have less, who are less. For Nietzsche and for these people, this is a disgrace. This is something that goes against evolution. So it says, look, in his 1940 study of anti-Semitism, Harry Saker stated that anti-Semitism is Europe's revenge on the prophets. The Jew is persecuted because he brought ethics and the conception of sin into the Western world. This is very deep. Please have this in mind. The European Christian cannot forgive the Jew for giving him completely Christianity. It is not because they are good Christians that the Europeans are instinctively anti-Semitic. It is because they are bad Christians. In reality, repressed pagans. How about that? So it is not surprising that when Jews are forced to defend their country and battle terrorists, many people are delighted at the opportunity to accuse citizens of war crimes, while they are fully aware that their own countries would have annihilated a criminal organization that fired thousands of rockets. What irritates the anti-Semite more than anything else is the knowledge that Israeli soldiers try to do everything in their power not to hurt civilian populations, in contrast to their own armies that would surely have taken much more aggressive action and left thousands dead. Do you know that 2 days ago, Russian forces killed 60 civilians? Have you heard? Raise your hand if you heard this. One? Who else? Oh, who's going to tell you? But if Israel kills one civilian in self-defense, because they attack their countries, not the Russians, that they're going to help the Syrians, who knows for what. All right? Then you will see that everywhere in the world, in the first page of every newspaper, of every website, nothing infuriates the anti-Semite more than observing those he hates maintaining a strong moral sense, even in the middle of war, that threatens their very survival. What can we do to fight anti-Semitism in all its forms? Can we become an immoral army to defeat anti-Semitism? Can we do anything about those who want to be the leaders of the Arab world? It's not about us. What can we do about it? Anything we can do in the UN? No, forget it. There's nothing we can do in the UN, nothing. But there are some things we can do. What we can do? Well, I want to finish by thinking about this period of time, the 3 weeks between Shiva Asar B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av, specifically about Tisha B'Av, where our 2 Bet HaMikdash were destroyed. Now, when we commemorate, we observe Tisha B'Av, we are not talking about anti-Semitism. We are not saying, oh, the Babylonians, let's curse the Babylonians. Let's talk about how they hated us. What do we do in Tisha B'Av? One word. What do we do in Tisha B'Av? When you say it was, in any time, including Kippur, of course, Kippur, of course. We do introspection, we do Teshuvah. Teshuvah for what? Well, very simple. For the reasons why the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. Listen, it's a pasuk in Yeshayahu, chapter 10, pasuk 5, that says, Ashur shevet api. Ashur, Assyria, is the rod of my anger to you. Which means the following. In the time of the first Bet HaMikdash, the Jews were very assimilated. They committed crimes. They committed murder. They committed Gilui Arayot, like LPGT and whatever is there. Okay, everything. They were stealing. They were doing Avodah Zarah. And how many prophets we had? How many? More than 40 prophets we had. Did any one of them succeed? Did any prophet succeed? Yes. One, only this is very embarrassing. Only one prophet succeeded. His name was Yonah. And he was preaching to the Goyim in Nineveh. Non-Jewish prophet. This is something we have to honor a lot of times about this. No one of our prophets succeeded. Boreolam had to bring something bad to us. Hey, we were warned. We were in the Torah. Read the Chokotai, read Kitavo. If you are not going to follow my laws, then something bad is going to happen. Now, you know when the Jews did Teshuvah? In the time of the first Bet HaMikdash, a little later after the first Bet HaMikdash. You know when they did Teshuvah? With the ring of Haman HaRasha. When Haman HaRasha, the epitome of the anti-Semite, he decreed that the Jews will have to die. Then we woke up, then we all became more religious. You understand? So, don't take my words out of context. But many times, like a parent that, after 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, you try to be good with your, then you have to say, hey, this is not good, what you are doing is not good. If Boreolam cannot bring us closer to Him, when we are okay, then sometimes we have to suffer the consequences. I'm not saying anything is not written in the Torah. It is written. It is written. It is written in Nitzavim that when you will see all these bad things happening to you, so, is there anything we can do about it? Yes. We can come closer to Boreolam. We can come closer to them. What happened in the second Bet HaMikdash, which is what affected us more? What is the lesson? What can we do to revert the situation of anti-Semitism on the second Bet HaMikdash? In the class that they had Monday, I mentioned something which I brought today, which is a paragraph, a text that quotes Vespasianus. You know who Vespasianus was? Vespasianus was the general that brought 60,000 soldiers from all over the Roman Empire to destroy Jerusalem, to destroy and to suffocate the rebellion of the Jews against the Roman Empire. Now, in the year 66, Neron committed suicide and there was no Roman emperor in Rome. So he decided not to do anything. So he stayed without doing nothing, without attacking. So the people, his soldiers, told him, go and attack, because the Jews are going to rearm, they're going to make weapons. Now, this is very sad what I'm going to read to you right now. But there is a reason why I'm reading this to you. This is what Vespasianus told them, because the Jews were fighting inside. If I'm going to attack the East right now, I'm going to bring the situation that all of the animosity among the Jews will disappear. And they will put all the strength against us. And I'm adding this. And they might win, because they won 2 years before. But if I wait, if Had Mispar Yevim, my enemies, the Jewish enemies, will go down, will be much less. Why? Because in Jerusalem right now, that is surrounded by us, they are killing each other. They are killing each other because there were factions there. Some people want to do peace with the Romans. Some people want to go and commit like suicide missions, and they burn all the provisions. Because our enemies, the Jews, they're killing each other with their own hands. Now, sit and wait until our enemies become weaker. They are not making weapons. They are not doing trenches. They are in a civil war. This is what our Chachamim said. Jerusalem was destroyed because of Sinat Chinam, of animosity among us. So, is there anything we can do to prevent the antisemitism of Paro? I don't think so. Is there anything we have done or we can do to stop the antisemitism of Christianity, of Christian countries or Europe? Is there anything we can do? I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I am in favor of Israel advocacy with Jews. We have to do with Jews, but I am not very optimistic that this will work. Is there anything we can do to stop the UN from single out and pointing out Israel as the villain of the war? I don't think so. Anything we can do against Turkey? Anything we can do against all the refugees, the Palestinians, all these things that are so unfair? I don't think so. But there are two things we can do. We can understand that Borei Olam wants us closer to Him. And that the biggest thing Borei Olam wants is what every father wants. With this I'm finished. You are a parent. What is probably the happiest scenario in your house, in your home? You have 3 children, 4 children. You know what is the happiest moment of a parent? When you see your children together, not fighting, playing together in peace, helping each other. Hey, if they help each other spontaneously, there is nothing parents would love more than this. And you know what hurts parents very much? When they see their children fighting with each other for nothing. For nothing. So this is what Borei Olam wants. Borei Olam doesn't want us to fight, to be against each other. He wants us to be together, like good brothers. This is what we want. This is what we can do, Ezrat Hashem now, Likrat Tisha B'Av, in these days of Teshuvah. Thank you very much, and if you have any questions.
Anybody has any questions? We'll take a couple for.
You covered all the bases.
Okay, all right.
What? In the medieval times, the Christians were more anti-Semitic than the Muslims, correct?
100%.
What happened that the Muslims joined them in anti-Semitism?
Right now?
Yeah, right now.
Well, to begin with, it's absolutely right. most of they were not tzaddikim with us, but at least they let us live, like more or less in peace. I'm not saying everywhere. You know more than anybody else about El Adadi and the story of the Mosaic community. That they were not tzaddikim, all right? But compared to the Christians, they were much better than us. Right now, I think it's a political thing more than a religious thing. They are using religion, but it's more politics. It's more like, imagine if Israel is in peace. If Israel has peace with all other Arab countries, who's going to be the leader of the Middle East? Who do you think is going to be the leader of the Middle East? Who do you think? Israel, no doubt. Israel, in every single sense, it's much higher than, and much better than any Arab country. So they don't want that. For them, it will be a slap in the face. So they want the destruction of Israel. The fact that right now, Egypt is with us, and Jordan is with us, and Turkey is with us, and Saudi Arabia is with us, Emirates are with us, it's not because they love us. It's not because of that. You just saw what Egypt said in the World Health Organization, and we are like this with Egypt. Egypt needs Israel more than Israel needs Egypt right now. And still, they accuse us of nonsense things. It's politics. And it's because, they try and they do a very good job in instilling anti-Semitism in the minds and the culture of the people. Because, they want to be the head of the Arab world. So again, there is no much we can do about it, unfortunately. Yes.
What happened if the Christians stopped hating us, and what can we do to emulate that in the world today? At some point,
well, when you say Christians, you have to separate between the different Christian denominations. So, yes, there are, for example, evangelical Christians that today are our biggest allies. But sometimes I get confused. I really get confused. Because sometimes their own leaders say, well, we want to help Israel because they believe in the second coming. You understand what I'm saying? The second coming means that only when the situation will be like it was in the time of Yosef will come back. All right? So for that, let's help all the Jews come to Israel, and then Yosef will come. So you never know what is really behind their intentions. Strategically, right now, many rabbis and many other people, they say, well, these are our friends. We need friends. We really need friends. Israel needs friends. We are so isolated. But other denominations like Catholics, etc., they are more preoccupied right now for radical Islam, but they don't love us. You can see what happens in the UN. If they will be fair, not law for us, just fair, every European country would have voted against this type of resolution, this type of condemnation. I didn't read to you all the condemnations. I think everybody knows about that. They would say something. They don't say anything. So for me, this is a very real proof of their feelings. Sweden, countries like that. And I have a friend. His wife is from Sweden. He knows Sweden very well. He told me, well, in Sweden, they hate those who cannot defend themselves. So you will not hear in Sweden a lot against Muslims, although Muslims are doing very bad things in Sweden and all over Europe. But they are so strong, so they cannot say anything against them. You understand? But against the Jews, who's going to defend the Jews? The Jews, we don't defend ourselves. We are very weak because we are alone. Right? Yes.
In regards to what we can do as Jews to combat the anti-Semitism, what will it take in terms of, is it the number of Jews, or is it, because there's different levels of Jews and how much they fight with each other and whatnot. So I'm wondering, what will it take? At what point will it be enough children who are getting along with each other to be able to see an effect and a change in what's going on around the world?
I think you have to try to do whatever you can do. First of all, begin with yourself. Begin with your friends. Begin, to love other Jews as you love yourself. Now, you go to college, I wouldn't say go and talk to the goyim, but if you see a Jew going to the BDS, because there are a lot in the camps, okay? So then you have a target, then you have somebody you can talk to. Hopefully you can make a change. So although I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical because it depends on the morality. The less Jewish values, the less values you have, the less morality you have, the more you will hate Israel and what Israel represents. Do you know, how can you explain, how in the world can you explain what happened 2 days ago? 2 days ago in the Democratic National Convention. How can you explain that? You know what I'm talking about? Have you read this? You know, there was this thing of Bernie Sanders, that they discovered the emails that DNC was in favor of Hillary Clinton. So all those who were, for supporters of Bernie Sanders, they abandoned the convention. They went outside and they put some tape here, like we don't have a voice, and they burned a flag. The Russian flag? American flag? They burned an Israeli flag. Why? What do we have to do with this? What does Israel have to do with the internal problems of the Democratic Convention? How can you explain that? I think the more liberal you are in your lifestyle, the more you will be against Israel and what Israel represents with this Judaism. Understand? But if you have friends, Jewish friends, we cannot give up on them. I learned, from whom I learned this? From Benjamin Anton. I learned that from them because I remember, okay, so what can we do? What can we do? And he said, listen, do not try to convince the world that we are right, but try with the Jews. Try with your Jewish brothers and sisters. I think this is what we can do. We have to bring them in, at least, although we are isolated and hated, at least let's be together. This is what Bezrat Hashem will make us much stronger. Then, for the rest of the world, there is not much more. All right, thank you very, very much.
Just to announce again, Rabbi Bitton gives a class every Monday night at 8:30 or 8:20. If you want to know more about the class, you can contact me. I manage the class also. Also, stay tuned for next week. We'll have a class on Christianity versus Judaism. Please come. Thank you.